YouTube, what is going on? My name is Corporate Serf, and welcome to my most ambitious project in all of my time here on YouTube. In today's video, we are going to be listing the top 50 tracking players in aim training currently. Since its inception in April of 2018, Kovacs has held some of the greatest players in tracking of all time. It's my understanding that when Kovacs first released, it drew some of the most competitive and established players looking to get an edge over their competition. Over time, however, players have moved to playing Kovacs more consistently, and some even consider aim trainers their game of choice. Throughout the history of Kovacs, we've seen insane trackers like Scucchi, Voltaic, Kev, and Phantasy, just to name a few. But now that we are here 7 years later, what remains of the top tracking talent here on Kovacs? So the video that you're watching right here is going to highlight the top 15 players, but you'll notice in the description as well, players 16 through 50. Do not get it twisted. Each rank was deliberately considered. This list took weeks of brainstorming, planning, researching, and investigating. Now that we've established our introduction, I'm going to go ahead and give a timestamp for when we start on player number 15 if that's all you're interested in. I want you to stick around, however. I want you to listen to the next segment that we have here because I think it's very important. You might ask yourself, why would somebody make a top 50 list? Isn't it disrespectful to everyone else? Why is it even necessary to consider who's at the top? Well, I can give you two concrete reasons, and these two reasons I really feel are the driving force behind why I wanted to do this project. But first, let me ask you a counter question. Why would Life magazine produce an edition in their publication of who the top 100 people are that changed the world? The answer is to start a conversation about what is important. What do we value? What do we find as good? The same logic applies for tracking. What do we consider an elite tracker? How do we take the collective history of a player and look to see if that player is well-rounded? What are the standards that we have for tracking? How can somebody boost their reputation? How can someone prove their tracking skill? The next point on why to make this video, in my opinion, it's very important for the direction of Kovacs in general. Kovacs is a game about raw mechanical skill. Personally, I find it important to document the players that have accomplished so much already in this new game. You see, I'm calling Kovacs new because I believe the future of Kovacs is undefined and its potential is enormous. You can sit behind your screen and call me crazy for thinking that aim trainers, Kovacs specifically, could be an esport, but I believe in the future of this game, and it's important to recognize where this game started and where it's at right now. So don't get it twisted. If you are a player that is on this list, whether featured in the top 15 video, or in the description, 16 through 50 down below, you are an elite player and you should be proud of what you have accomplished. I hope that we can establish a running series for this type of content, a standardization for how we evaluate tracking players so that this list in the next year and the years to come will have talent that nobody imagined beforehand. We're already seeing it with players now that are pushing peaks never thought possible. One last thing, and I think this is important, these are only my definitions of tracking. I am a player that's reached the top rank, Celestial, for tracking in a subcategory. I do believe that you should take my evaluation seriously, as I've put in the work to prove my skill within tracking. I also want to take the time to thank a couple people personally for helping me with this list. I want to give a big shout out to Ness, sillydomi, Seer, Dawn QT, Tragedy, VT Maddie, AOD. The list does go on, but unfortunately I can't name everyone. Thank you all so much for investing in my project and taking the time to help me with this list. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and jump into my evaluations on the skill that is tracking. So you thought we were hopping into tracking stuff, but we're actually looking at the visible light spectrum. Why? There's a great analogy here. So the visible light spectrum is a part of the electromagnetic spectrum that we can see. It's visible to the human eyes. It goes from the left on your screen here, ultraviolet, all the way to the right on your screen with infrared. Well, here I am to make the comparison that tracking is also on a spectrum. And what might the scale for that spectrum be? Reactivity. So on the left here we have raw reactive, standard reactive, reactive control, raw control, precise, hybrid precise, and raw smoothness. You see, looking back at the history of our aim groups, we had Sparky, which is now Voltaic, and in their season 1, they just had one big category for tracking. Then as we got into season 2, we had precise and reactive. Now all the way at season 5, we have precise, control, and reactive. All these subcategories here that I'm attempting to define on your screen can easily fall within those three compound tracking categories. I made this tracking reactivity spectrum as a theory so that we can evaluate each of these subcategories and see how they work in relation to each other. So let's go ahead and look at these examples. You can see on your screen a bunch of scenario names on the far right. I'm actually going to pause as I list these so that you guys can actually see some gameplay and see how each one is different from the other. So here we go at the top. For raw reactive, I chose Ground Plaza Sparky V3 Overwatch. Then with standard reactive, we have Air Voltaic. This comes from Voltaic Season 2. Voltaic Season 2 and 3 are the same thing, by the way. Then for reactive control, we have Air Angelic 4 Voltaic Small. For raw control, we have Extra Control Sphere. For precise, we have Smoothbot Voltaic Hard. For hybrid precise, we have Voltaic Snake Track Advanced Season 5. And then for raw smoothness, we have Centering 1, 180, No Straight. Despite the extreme differences from the top to the bottom, all of these subcategories come together under the umbrella of tracking. It's important to note that just because someone is good at one extreme does not guarantee that they are good at the other. This theory that I've developed here is the basis for the certain scenarios that I choose when drawing criteria for our best tracking players list. This is the foundation for how I see AIM and for how I hope to push the conversation, because at the end of the day, these are just my opinions. So all that being said, let's go ahead and jump into the criteria for evaluating our players on this list. Okay, the criteria for this list. Despite all the tracking theory we just went over, for my list I did simplify 3 categories that hold the most weight. These are our traditional precise, control, and reactive. The 2 extremes that we talked about, raw smoothness and raw reactive, will be considered, but only in the case of a tiebreaker. Raw smoothness and raw reactive are definitely important, but they are not necessarily helpful in determining what a well-rounded player is. Okay, let's talk about who can be included. The idea behind this is that the top players naturally are going to post their scores online, and that's important with Kovacs because Kovacs does not have an anti-cheat. For M groups like Voltaic, system clock and session timers are pivotal to prove the legitimacy of a run. So with that in mind, a player should have 5 posted personal best scores in the tracking categories within the last 12 months. There will be exceptions to this rule for players that have previously posted scores and we know are still active. So in simple terms, be active and don't be a cheater. Okay, since I'm the person that's making this list and I obviously have biases, it's important to list those at the beginning of the video. The first of which, and absolutely the most important for this video, is that we have a bias to Kovacs aimers. This is because I have the most time with Kovacs, but that most high-level aimers choose Kovacs or Aim Beast, and Kovacs has a higher player base. The other bias to consider is my bias towards Voltaic scores specifically. I'm a Voltaic grinder. That's all I do is play Voltaic on Kovacs. Of course, I'm going to do research to other benches, and other relevant scores will be considered, but Voltaic is my standard. Okay, let's go ahead and talk about factors that will not be considered. The first one is the CM360, or the sensitivity of a score. The highest score means more. There will be a few minor exceptions for scores at the very top level. The next factor that we're not considering is a frame rate or refresh rate of a monitor that a player is playing on. In my book, it does not make it more impressive, and other players should not be penalized for having worse hardware. The last thing that we are not considering is the play count of a player. Of course, a high play count is a great indicator of the peak skill a player has, but we are not using the play count of a player against them. So all of that being stated, it's important that you guys see the 15 most important, most valuable scenarios and their relevance to tracking overall. So the first 4 with the most weight to me are Smoothbot Voltaic, Air No UFO, No Skybots, this is also called Air Nuns, VT Raw Control Advanced Season 5, and Extra Control Sphere. The next set of highly important scenarios by category are VT PGT Advanced Season 5. This is also interchangeable with PGTI Voltaic, Ground Plaza Voltaic, Wisphere, and Air Angelic 4 Voltaic. Now also under heavy consideration, just miscellaneous this time, we have Air Voltaic, Smoothbot Power Glider, Ground Advanced Season 5 Bot 3 specifically, VT Aether Advanced, Air Angelic, and Ground Plaza Sparky V3. These are the standard tasks I'm looking at when I'm evaluating a player. Yes, some of these are very old, but I hope to create kind of a standardized benchmark that we can look to as some of the most important scenarios so that players know what to invest in. This video that I'm making here will hopefully be a long-standing tradition, and so I'm looking at the ways that we can create a benchmark for evaluating players. Then briefly here, let's talk about those tiebreakers. These are the raw smoothness and the raw reactive. So for raw smoothness, the most important scenario in my mind is centering 180 no strafes. Then we also have the collective of the TSK extra benchmark. That is the main TSK benchmark. There's 24 scenarios within that benchmark set. For raw reactive, we have Ground Plaza Sparky V3 Overwatch. But really the best platform for these type of scenarios is Aim Beast. So when considering tiebreakers, Aim Beast will be in heavy consideration. Okay, have you made it this far? We've covered a lot of ground, a lot of theory, a lot of rules, a lot of criteria, but now is the big moment. Now we go ahead and jump in to the number 15 spot. And at the number 15 spot, who better to begin with than Scucchi? So if you're an AimLab player, you may be familiar with him for being top 10 in Season 2. On the topic of AimLab official ranked, there are better markers to identify top players, but in general Seasons 1 and Seasons 2 are quite respected, and there are trusted creators within AimLab working to make sure future seasons are up to standard. But most of you should know Scucchi for his legendary ground reactive. He has a whole method of diagonal maxing attributed to his name, and there's a pretty awesome guide by Matty OW, so if you guys struggle with reactive tracking, I recommend you check it out. But outside of reactive tracking, Scucchi is extremely well-rounded, and for those reasons, he makes our video here at the number 15 spot. Hey everybody, it's Editing Corporate Serf here. I recorded the commentary for this video over multiple days. Upon reviewing this commentary, it seems I only know one adjective, and that is the word incredible. So instead of hearing the word incredible 8 times, I'm going to go ahead and add some new adjectives here in post. So if you hear a really weird adjective that's out of place, yeah, I probably said incredible. At number 14, we have Zeeb. Now Zeeb is a bit of a mysterious player. Most of his VODs are unlisted, but that cannot go against the fact that his scores are remarkable on the platform. He had the PGTI #1 score until Clover recently overtook him, but he also has great control scores. His reactive is pretty good as well, making him a very well-rounded player. For those reasons, he's number 14 here on our list. At number 13, we have our first AimLab only player, and that is Minjun. So, not that it's up for consideration really on this list, but Minjun dominates AimLab official ranked. But when it comes to Voltaic, he has Celestial by category, that's precise, control, and reactive. And then the scores he doesn't have Celestial, he has Astra as a minimum. So that's Astra complete with Celestial by category for tracking. Going back to our explicit bias, we don't see his Kovacs scores because he does not play on Kovacs. Now AimLab is an unfortunate case because air is not the same on AimLab as it is on Kovacs. Really a lot of the scenarios are not the same from AimLab to Kovacs. Despite those differences, being Celestial by category with Astra complete is a huge accomplishment, and Minjun gets the number 13 spot here on this list. Next up at the number 12 spot, we have Celine. You may see Celine on your Kovacs leaderboards as the Astrum Star. Celine has outstanding control tracking. She's the number 3 for VT Raw Control Advanced Season 5, and her reactive tracking is also top level. She really does not have weaknesses as her precise tracking is very good as well, and for those reasons she's number 12 here on this list. At the number 11 spot we have Torex. Torex absolutely dominates in control tracking. He has incredible scores for the 2 Voltaic control tracking tasks in Season 5, and he has an amazing top 5 score on Control Sphere, breaking the 15,000 score mark. Speaking of top 5 scores, his precise is also insanely strong with a near celestial score on PGT Advanced Season 5. He's well-rounded as well with strong reactive tracking, so for those reasons he's number 11 here on this list. At the number 10 spot we have a unique player that can push seemingly any scenario that he puts his mind to, and that is Ricky. Now Ricky is getting this number 10 spot for a couple of reasons, but chief among them is his impressive reactive talent. On one of our top criteria points here with Air Nuns, he has a number 4 leaderboard score. He also has a top 10 score for Aether here in Voltaic Season 5. For control tracking, he boasts a near 15,000 score on Control Sphere, paired with 4,300 on Air Angelic 4 Voltaic, and he's Astra for Raw Control Season 5. To complete the set, he also has very strong precise tracking, and for these reasons, he's number 10 here on our list. Moving right along to the number 9 spot, I have a player whose name I'm going to abbreviate to OKA, but you'll see their full name here on the screen. OKA has a superb resume. His biggest strength is arguably his reactive, with a number 6 Air Nuns score and a Plaza Season 4 top 10 Celestial score, but he also has incredible control tracking, with a near 15k control sphere score. That is top 10 on the leaderboard. If you could even call it a weakness, his precise barely falls behind, especially when looking at his 4.2k smoothbot voltaic, which is a top 25 score for that bench as well. OKA has a fantastic profile here on Kovacs, and for those reasons, he's number 9 here on this list. Moving right along here to number 8, I had a very tough decision, but this spot ultimately went to 21 Leica. Now that's another name I don't know if I'm saying right. I don't know if it's Leica or Lychee, but Leica did something that's pretty remarkable, and only 4 players have done this, and he has Celestial Complete for Voltaic Season 4 tracking. Now of course this is a tracking only video, but I just have to mention, he's also one of 3 that has Celestial Complete for Season 4 just in general. This really shows the caliber of player that Leica is, and it should go to show how good the rest of this list is if Leica is here at number 8. So obviously looking at his reactive and precise, they're both top level. He's only losing a little bit of placement here for not having much of our traditional criteria for control pushed. And when I say pushed, I'm talking about the player playing the scenario until they reach their full potential. So all that being said, we have Leica at the number 8 spot. Let's move on to number 7. At the number 7 spot, we have a creator with one of the fastest growing audiences in the aim training scene, and that is Viscose. Now Viscose has incredibly well-rounded aim, but what sticks out the most to me is just how impressive her air reactive is. On top of that, she has Celestial Complete for Season 3 Voltaic tracking, and she has Celestial Complete for Season 3 as well. Now this does not go to Viscose's detriment, but Season 3 is considered a little bit easier for its score requirements for Celestial, but she still has her placement here just because of how good her scores and her overall skill are. She's a player you can only expect to continue to improve, and now it looks like she has even better hardware, boasting a 600Hz monitor. Very excited to see what Viscose does next. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into the number 6 spot here on this list. And at the number 6 spot, we have none other than Cestroid. Now Cestroid is known for being an absolute beast in-game, but this is a name trainer list. Well, he also does not disappoint in Kovacs tracking. He has dominant air reactive with a number 3 score on Air Nuns. He's the former number 1 for Smoothbot Power Glider, but he gapped the competition for an extremely long amount of time. Some people thought that score might not ever get topped. I will say he doesn't have a lot of played scenarios. This is especially true for our traditional control tracking, at least for the criteria for this video, but his prowess with the Air Angelic Gauntlet proves his control tracking skill set and gives me all the confidence to place him here at number 6 on our list. Guys, we are finally winding down. We've reached the top 5 players here on this list. This is where things start to get really interesting. Some of these players here in this top 5, you guys might have different places. This is where things get really tight with our consideration and where I will have to be specific about my criteria and how each player fits. But with no further delay, let's look at number 5. It's Juicer QT. So again, Juicer is one of 3 with this Celestial Complete for Season 4 Voltaic. That also means, by definition, he's the one of 4 with Celestial Season 4 tracking. Personally, I'm mesmerized by Juicer's bounce aim. He has an amazing score on PGTI that's over 3,000. Then for its Season 4 brother, Precise Orb, he has a top 5 score. But on top of that elite precise aim, he has amazing reactive and top level strafe aim. This is one of the reasons why Season 4 is so interesting, is because of those strafe scenarios. Looking at his scores, his weakest category, if you could even call it a weak category, is our traditional control tracking. But even then, it's extremely strong, and for those reasons, he's one of the most well-rounded, established trackers here on Kovacs and within aim trainers in general. Alright, number 4, let's take a look at AOD. You all probably know AOD for being a reactive god, but oh man, are there layers to how good AOD is. First of all, let's talk about the reactive. There's an argument to be made that AOD has the best ground reactive tracking. If you look at leaderboards, he already broke the world record for Season 4 Ground Plaza Advanced. Then when you look at his best air scores, which mind you, top 3 is like a standard, those scores are from like a year ago. Of course, potential is not really a criteria here for this list, but come on! The potential is huge for AOD here on Kovacs. Taking a look at Precise, Why wouldn't it be amazing? A great example here being his number 4 Smoothbot Voltaic score. And then just to solidify the standard of being a minimum of top 5 at every tracking thing he does, we can look at his control tracking with a number 5 leaderboard score for Air Angelic 4 Voltaic. So, wow, the standard is set high for our top 3 players. So throughout our time talking about this list, making our evaluations, referencing different points, there was one theme, one accomplishment that stands above all. YouTube, my listeners, my friends, let me tell you about the weight that Celestial Complete holds. You know, we talked about Viscose being Celestial Complete for Season 3. Then we talked about Lychee and Juicer being Celestial Complete for Season 4. Chat, let me tell you about these two absolute GOATs that are Celestial Complete tracking for Season 5. The Season Beta was introduced in December. We got 2 players on this list that are already Celestial Complete for tracking. And the first one that I'm talking about right here is Azure Plus. You want to talk about talent, man? Azure has it all. Reactive Air with Aether, got it, Celestial. Ground Advanced, got it, Celestial. Okay, what about Control? Control Sphere, Raw Control, got it, Celestial for both. What about Precise? PGT, got it, Celestial. Just for the hell of it, for the benefit. Raw Smoothness, Snake Track, Celestial as well. Mind you, all of these are with very little plays. The dude is robotic, superhuman. Guys, if you want to see what the future of aim trainers looks like, look at Azure Plus. But oh, we got a little bit of a tone shift here as we talk about number 2. Because if you don't want to see what the future of aim trainers looks like, let's talk about VT Clover. See, VT Clover's interesting, right? Because he has more retirements than Michael Jordan. But at the same time, he kind of is Michael Jordan. You understand what I'm saying? The dude is literally the most talented player Kovacs has ever seen. But as of a couple days ago, he's peace out. Unlisted all of his VODs. And yeah, he's kind of riding into the sunset. But literally, you name it. Control tracking, number 1. Piss easy. Air Nuns, number 1. Piss easy. PGTI, number 1 for Precise. No sweat. The thing about Clover, though, and one of the reasons why he's not number 1 right here, is he couldn't be asked to play our tiebreakers. Raw Reactive? Nah, didn't play it. TSK? Nope, didn't even like it. You see, the other thing is, though, because he hasn't been taking it as seriously, he alerted the competition, allowed the competition to creep up. And so where we can theorize that Clover's mechanical skill could have been better, when this list's criteria is scores, we have a true number 1. Somebody bring a gong in. Everybody, was there a doubt in your mind? The number 1 tracking player for our 2025 list, it is Master Oogway himself, VT Maddie. Man, what can we say about what Maddie has done for Kovacs and for aim training as a whole? Natural talent, good work ethic, well-spoken, a teacher, land proven, Red Bull Ready check number 1. VT Maddie stands at the top as our undisputed number 1 here for our tracking video. There is no single score that anyone has pushed that Maddie cannot catch up to. He's currently sniping the best players scenario by scenario by scenario, each of our categories. He currently sits at the top of PGT, Control Sphere Season 5, Ground Advanced. But in the case of our tiebreakers, if you were wondering, his Raw Reactive, top level, TSK and Smoothness, Uber, top level. Ladies and gentlemen, there are arguments for all these players here on this list, but nobody is doing it like VT Maddie. And in terms of the future and the direction of this platform, I am so excited to see him at the top. Genuinely, Maddie is doing so much good for this game, and I can only hope to see more of it in the future. So, that's the end of it. This is the end of my video here for our top 50 tracking players in 2025. I'm going to be honest here, the rant I had at number 2 and number 1 wasn't planned to anybody. Those are opinions coming right off the dome. The people that helped me with this list, they may not share those opinions at all. They helped me with my criteria and my placements for everyone. But if you get mad at me for my opinions, make sure it's only at me. So with that being said, I am going to extend another big thank you to everyone who helped me on this project. I literally could not have done it without some of you. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you. As some of you guys may know, I'm a fast food worker. For me, this is exciting. I get passionate about this shit because I work all day. I'm on an open grill flipping burgers. I got nothing to think about other than this. So thank you all for giving me something to be excited about. I'm truly having the time of my life making these YouTube videos, and it means the world that you guys are willing to support me. So, that's a wrap for this one. Thank you all again for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.